Hey friends, it's Lauren Taylor. It's the last day of the month, so it's Halloween time here in my craft room. This month I'm going to be featuring products from Spellbinders, and I'm also going to bring in some embellishments from Twiddler's Nook because it is also time to hop over on Instagram with some of my other crafty friends for Halloween for the Twiddler's Nook Spooktacular. So I'm going to start with all of my die cutting. I'm using the Woof-or-Treat Etched dies from Spellbinders, and they layer together to create a really adorable little trick-or-treating kind of puppy dog with his ghost costume. So I'm picking out cardstock that I want to use for my die cutting. As always, I'll have everything listed down below in the description box, but I'm trying to use as much Spellbinders cardstock as I can. I have quite a lot of scraps from the Weekender retreat that they hosted a little while ago, so trying to use those up, and again, I will have what I've used linked down below. So I'm going to die cut my dog out of some brown cardstock, the inside of his ears and nose out of a pale peachy cardstock. My Halloween candy bucket will be yellow and black, and finally his ghost costume will be out of white cardstock. I also have a couple other items from this particular release from Spellbinders, the Happy Haunting release. I'm going to use the Skully press plates for my sentiment, but the wax seal I don't end up using in today's project. I'll have to use it on another project for Halloween. Now the die cuts work and layer together perfectly, but I wanted to add a little bit more, so I'm going to grab my Twiddler's Nook brushes and some Distress Oxides. I'm adding some Lost Shadow to the white die cut piece, so just to give it a little bit of some dimension and more roundedness with the Distress Oxide, the distressing of the ink on there. And then I'm going to use Vintage Photo for my puppy pieces. Now I definitely added more ink than in areas than I needed to for this piece because a lot of it is going to be hidden behind the costume, but I wanted to darken up the ears a little bit and the eyes. And then I'm also adding this to the little mouth and of course his little feet that will stick out from underneath the ghost costume sheet. Now I wanted to create a yellow pumpkin candy bucket because it will match the Twiddler's Nook embellishments that I'm going to use. So I decided to grab carved pumpkin and use that as the distressing color. So you still see a lot of that yellow to match the embellishments, but then it does look a little more orange because of the inking. I have my glue press ready to go, so let's start layering our different pieces together. Again, this is the Woof-or-Treat Etched die set. So I'm going to start by adding the little paw prints that stick out just below the little ghost sheet part of the costume. After that, I'll add in the snout of the dog and glue that in place. There is a impression that the die gives, so you know exactly where to line up that piece. That's one thing I really love about Spellbinders dies is you know where to layer everything together. I'm picking up the nose, which I die cut out of this kind of light peach color. I think having a black nose would also be cute, but the die itself cuts out the inside of the ears and the nose, so I just went with that peachy pink color for the nose as well. Now I'm putting in the inside of the ears, so just following the impression that the die set pressed into the paper to glue those in place. Once the ears are in place, we can glue that piece to the back side of our costumed puppy here. So I'm adding my glue to the back side of the ghost costume, and then I'm going to layer so that the top of the ghost head lines up with the top of the puppy head, and you can see the eyes coming through those open holes in the costume. Now there aren't any dies to cover the back side of the eyes, so what I decided to do was use the piece that pops out from the die cut of the candy bucket, and I just cut it in half and glued those to the back side of the dies, and that way you could see the black come through the pupils of the eyes for the dog. And while that is drying, I will layer my candy bucket together. There's just the two pieces. I went with black as I just felt like it looked like the traditional Halloween candy bucket. So now that my dog is assembled and my Halloween candy treat bucket is assembled, we can layer these together. I'm going to glue just a little bit behind the handle of the candy bucket and slide that in under like his kind of snout area so it looks like he's holding the bucket in its mouth. So adorable. While I'm waiting for the glue to dry, I'm going to get out my sentiment from the Skully press plate set. I'm going to use the Happy Haunting and To All a Good Fright sentiment. Now this is a Better press plate set, but I'm going to use it for foiling. So while my Glimmer hot foil machine is warming up, I'm going to move on to some more die cutting. I'm going to be using the Twiddler's Nook embellishments to make a shaker card. So I'm going to create my shaker window out of the Spellbinders Essential Modern Ovals Etched dies. I picked a size that I thought looked nice and would go around the cute little dog that I die cut, and then I went 2 sizes larger to create a nice wide frame that I will use to create a shaker window. Now that that's done and my Glimmer hot foil machine is warming up, it's almost ready for me to warm up my press plate. So I'm going to go ahead and get my foil ready. I'm going to use the Opaque white Glimmer hot foil from Spellbinders. I'm using my trimmer to make sure that I cut just what I need. I don't like to have too much excess foil because it can cause overfoiling. So just using my little cutter system here from Spellbinders to cut a piece of this white foil, and I'll run that through my system. While the plate is warming up, I'm going to grab a pattern paper to create a background for my card. I decided to grab one of these A2 sheets from the Spooky Pattern Cardstock from scrapbook.com. I really liked the yellow of this paper. I thought it matched pretty well with how the pumpkin candy bucket turned out, and I'm going to trim it down to be 4 by 5 1/4, so slightly smaller than an A2 card front. I wanted to add a little bit more dimension to this as well, so I'm grabbing my black blending brush from Twiddler's Nook and black Soot Distress Oxide, and I'm going to ink up the edges of this background paper. Once I'm done with the ink, I'm going to add a little bit of splatter. So I'm going to grab my black luster brush marker from scrapbook.com, and what I do is I prime the brush by getting some of the ink into the brush and then just tapping it so it creates splatter onto the surface. I'll go ahead and set that aside to dry, and my Glimmer hot foil machine was ready, but I was getting distracted by finishing all of my cutting. So I'm going to trim a piece of acetate to fit behind this oval piece. I could have used the die, but I just was, I guess, too lazy to do that. So instead I took my time, the longer time, to cut that piece of acetate so it would be hidden behind the larger oval size of my frame. I finally took the time to create my Glimmer hot foiled sentiment, again the adorable Happy Haunting and To All a Good Fright, and I just used some scissors to fussy cut around the sentiment. Now it's time to assemble the shaker, so I'm going to add double-sided adhesive to the back side of the oval frame, and I peeled off all the release paper and sticking the acetate oval that I cut down to be behind that frame. I didn't get it lined up perfectly, but that's okay. I'm just going to use my scissors to trim off any excess acetate that peeks out from around the edges of that black frame that I die cut. Once I have that, I'm going to grab some black foam adhesive. This is a little bit on the thinner side, which normally I really love, but for shaker cards, I want it to be a little thicker. So I'm going to fold it over on itself to create a thicker foam. And I need it to be a little thinner in width to fit behind that oval frame that I die cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece in half. Once I have my strips, I'll go ahead and peel off the release paper from both sides of my foam adhesive, and I'm going to follow the frame. I'm sorry, I'm a little off camera here, but I do push it up in just a moment. And I'm just going around the edge of my frame, doing my best to make sure that foam adhesive stays hidden behind that black frame. Once it's completely covered and I make sure that the pieces are snug to each other so no little embellishments can escape, I'm going to create my embellishment mix. So I'm actually using some leftover from the card I made for last month in July. I attempted to film the video, but my camera did not have a full battery and it died. So I did not have a video for the last day of Halloween last month, but that's okay. I'm going to create the same mix out of these 4 different embellishment packs. I have the glow in the dark stars and moons, the Gone Baddie, the perfect pineapple confetti stars, and silver seed beads, again all from Twiddler's Nook, and I'm just using all 4 of those to create my own shaker mix. Now that I have them in my cute little skull tray, I'll go ahead and pour them onto the center of the background, and I'm going to get them in oval shape so I can put my shaker frame right above that, doing my best to get it nice and centered onto this pattern paper. I'm going to firmly press the frame, make sure that foam is sticking, and give it a shake, and everything seems to be staying in so we can keep moving on assembling the card. I'm using double-sided adhesive to add my cute little trick-or-treating puppy dog to the card. So I'll go ahead and add it to the front of the shaker. I want it a little bit higher so that way my sentiment will fit underneath this cute, adorable image. So once I have that in place, I'll add my double-sided or my adhesive tape runner again to my sentiment and get that attached to the card front. That will finish off the card, so let's go ahead and pick up my desk and get a card base. This is a top folding A2 card base out of some sturdy white cardstock. I'm going to grab my super sticky tape to add adhesive to the back of my card front, and I'll go ahead and get that centered onto my card base. Just another reminder that again, we are hopping with some other crafty friends of mine for Twiddler's Nook Spooktacular Instagram hop. So you can find the link down below to my Instagram so you can hop along with us and be entered to win a prize from Twiddler's Nook. Here is a final close-up of my card. Again, I'm using Spellbinders dies and press plates along with Twiddler's Nook embellishments to create this fun Halloween shaker card for the last day of the month. I hope this card inspired you today and that you have some fun creating with your products for Halloween as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!